A wealthy billionaire, fearing his family would squander his fortune, faked his own death in a plane crash. Hidden from view, he watched his heirs struggle and fight over his wealth, waiting to see who would honor his legacy and who would tear it apart. Count Luca, a billionaire, was getting older and began to worry about what would happen after he died. He wondered about his legacy, questioning who would manage the wealth he had worked so hard to build. Would his family use his fortune wisely and grow his businesses? Or would they spend it all carelessly? Count Luca had a large family with 2 wives and 6 children, and he wasn't sure if they would handle his wealth responsibly or waste it all. To find out, the billionaire came up with a clever plan. He decided to fake his own death in a plane crash. This way, he could secretly observe how his family would manage his wealth. Comment below where you are watching from. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Now let's dive to the main story. The morning began with the news that Count Luca Ayodele, one of Nigeria's wealthiest billionaires, had died in a private jet crash over the Atlantic Ocean. The announcement sent shockwaves through Lagos. Journalists swarmed the gates of his opulent Ikoyi mansion, while social media buzzed with rumors and tributes. Inside the mansion, the mood was anything but somber. Luca's family gathered in the grand living room, each grappling with their thoughts about the enormous wealth he had left behind. "Now what happens to the empire?" muttered Gloria, Luca's second wife, sipping her morning coffee with a fake tear running down her cheek. Her stepson, Depo, paced the room, his face a storm of emotions. "We can't even mourn properly before everyone starts thinking about money," he shouted, glaring at Gloria. "Calm down, Depo," said Tinny, his half-sister. "Let's wait for the will to be read." As tension simmered, the sound of a car pulling up drew everyone's attention. A sharp knock on the door announced the arrival of a lawyer carrying a sealed envelope. "This contains the last instructions from Count Luca Ayodele," the lawyer declared. "I suggest you gather everyone for the reading." The room fell silent. Luca's 6 children, 2 wives, and close aides gathered nervously. But in a hidden corner of the estate, an old man in a gardener's uniform quietly observed the scene through a small window. The gardener's eyes gleamed with hidden knowledge. Luca Ayodele wasn't dead. He was very much alive, watching as his family prepared to reveal their true faces. The lawyer cleared his throat, preparing to read the will. Luca, unseen by all, leaned forward to hear every word. The family sat on the edge of their seats as the lawyer unsealed the envelope. Depo's impatience was evident. He tapped his fingers against the polished wooden armrest of his chair. Gloria held a handkerchief to her nose, though her eyes betrayed her hunger for control. The lawyer began, "To my beloved family, if you're hearing this, then I am gone. My empire, my life's work, means everything to me, and I have no intention of leaving it in unworthy hands. For this reason, my fortune will not be distributed freely." Gasps filled the room. The lawyer continued, "Instead, my empire will be entrusted to the person who proves themselves most capable of managing it. For the next 30 days, the family must work together to maintain and grow my assets. Any significant losses during this period will result in the immediate forfeiture of the fortune, which will then go to charity." 30 days? Depo exclaimed, rising to his feet. "What kind of nonsense is this?" Gloria smirked, her calculating mind already working. "Well, it seems the old man didn't trust any of us," she said, barely hiding her amusement. The lawyer raised a hand for silence. "Furthermore, I have appointed a trustee to oversee this process. All decisions will go through them." "Who's the trustee?" Tinny asked, her voice sharp. "That person will remain anonymous for now," the lawyer said, glancing knowingly toward the gardener peeking through the window. After the reading of the will, the family erupted into chaos. Gloria accused Depo of being too reckless to handle the empire. Depo fired back, calling her a gold digger. Meanwhile, Adebimp, Luca's first wife, sat quietly, watching the scene unfold like a chessboard. Outside, Luca leaned on his rake, chuckling to himself. He had expected this level of greed and pettiness, but it still amused him to see how quickly his family forgot his supposed death. The lawyer's final words lingered in everyone's mind. If, by the end of 30 days, no one proves capable of maintaining the empire, All $32 billion will be donated to charities across Africa. As the family debated their next steps, the gardener, Luca in disguise, strolled into the garden, planting himself close enough to eavesdrop. Depo turned to Tinny. If we don't take charge now, Gloria will ruin everything. And you won't, Tinny snapped. You've already lost millions in those terrible investments Dad always warned you about. Gloria interrupted with a cold laugh. This is going to be fun. Luca sighed. He had hoped for at least one member of the family to rise above the chaos. But as the first day ended, the seeds of destruction were already sown. Gloria moved quickly, calling her financial advisor to strategize. We need to consolidate power, she said, pacing in her lavish bedroom. If I control the assets, they'll have no choice but to follow me. Meanwhile, Depo rallied his siblings, convincing two of them to support his plan to invest heavily in risky markets to grow the fortune. Tinny, however, distanced herself from both factions, silently planning her own moves. By nightfall, Luca reviewed the day's events from a secret room in a nearby hotel. He shook his head as he scrolled through reports of Depo's reckless decisions and Gloria's manipulative schemes. Is this my legacy? He muttered, his voice heavy with disappointment. With Luca receiving a call from his loyal assistant, who had been secretly monitoring the family. Sir, there's something you need to see. Gloria isn't just after the fortune. She's hiding something much bigger. Gloria's bedroom was dimly lit as she paced back and forth, her phone pressed to her ear. We have to move fast, she whispered to the financial advisor on the other end of the call. Luca's companies are assets we can liquidate discreetly. The sooner I secure them, the sooner I take control. The advisor hesitated. Madam, there's a catch. Luca set up complex safeguards. Moving any significant funds could trigger an investigation. Gloria frowned. Then we'll move in smaller pieces. I didn't marry a billionaire to lose everything to his children. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit corner of the estate, Luca, disguised as the gardener, listened intently. He had installed discreet listening devices in key parts of the mansion. Hearing Gloria's ruthless plan, he shook his head in frustration. In another part of the house, Depo convened a late-night meeting with his younger siblings. We need to stop Gloria before she gets her claws into Dad's empire, he said, his voice intense. Tinny crossed her arms, unimpressed. And your solution is what? Gamble more of the family fortune? Do you have a better idea? Depo snapped. I do, she replied coolly. But you'll never follow through because you're too impulsive. With Depo storming out of the room, Tinny quietly texting an unknown number, and Gloria receiving a mysterious file labeled The Billionaire's Vault. While the family's drama played out, Ayodele, Luca's first wife, quietly stayed out of the spotlight. Many underestimated her, seeing her as the aging widow without ambition. But Ayodele had her own plan, and an unexpected ally, her youngest son, Khalid. Mom, we can't let them tear this family apart, Khalid said, his voice steady. Dad built something incredible, and it's our duty to protect it. Ayodele nodded, a glint of determination in her eyes. But we'll do it the right way, without stooping to their level. We'll use intelligence and patience. Khalid began reviewing financial records, noticing a pattern of discrepancies in recent transactions. This doesn't add up, he muttered, showing his findings to Ayodele. Unbeknownst to them, Luca watched from a distance, his heart softening. Maybe there's hope after all, he thought. But as Khalid dug deeper, he found something troubling. A series of offshore transactions linked to Gloria, with Khalid telling his mother, if this is what I think it is, we might lose everything before we even start. Determined to prove himself, Depo took a bold step, investing millions in a flashy tech startup. Confident in his decision, he called a press conference to announce the deal. This is the future of the Ayodele empire, he declared to reporters, smiling for the cameras. Luca, watching the press conference on TV, shook his head. Foolish boy, he muttered. 3 days later, the startup collapsed after a scandal involving its CEO. News broke that the investment was a complete loss. Reporters swarmed the Ayodele mansion, questioning the family's judgment. Inside, the atmosphere was tense. Tinny wasted no time in mocking Depo. So much for being the savior of the empire, she said sarcastically. Depo shot back. At least I'm trying. What are you doing besides criticizing everyone? Their argument was interrupted by a knock at the door. A journalist stood outside with a folder of documents. This is something the public needs to know, he said ominously, with the journalist handing over a file labeled Ayodele Family Secrets, Exposed. The leaked documents painted a damning picture of the Ayodele family. Headlines accused them of greed, incompetence, and corruption. News channels ran stories non-stop, showing clips of the family arguing during public appearances. Gloria, furious, hired a PR firm to spin the narrative, but the damage was done. Sponsors began pulling out of deals with Luca's companies, and employees protested outside the mansion, demanding better leadership. In the chaos, Tinny found herself approached by an old friend from university who offered her a chance to redeem the family's name. I have an idea for a business venture that could save your family's reputation, he said. Tinny hesitated, knowing the risks, but the potential rewards were tempting. Meanwhile, Luca, still in disguise, wandered into the employee protest, listening to their grievances. My family has let these people down, he thought, guilt weighing heavily on him. With Luca spotting Depo entering a casino late at night, clearly desperate to win back the lost millions. Desperation pushed Gloria into forming an alliance with a shady businessman named Alhaji Bello. I can help you secure Luca's empire, Bello promised, but it will cost you. Gloria agreed, unaware that Bello had his own agenda. Together, they began siphoning funds from Luca's businesses into private accounts. Elsewhere, Khalid continued investigating the offshore transactions, realizing they were connected to Bello. This man is dangerous, he told Adebimp. Meanwhile, Luca grew increasingly anxious as he watched his empire unravel. He debated whether to intervene, but decided to let the drama unfold further. If they can't handle this, they don't deserve it, he reasoned. With Bello meeting Gloria in a dark alley, handing her a briefcase and whispering, "The game is just beginning." The casino lights flashed brightly, but Depo wasn't there for entertainment. With sweat forming on his brow, he clutched a pile of chips, his eyes glued to the roulette table. The stakes were high. He had secretly diverted $10 million from one of Luca's smaller ventures to fund his desperate gamble. I just need to double it, he muttered under his breath, watching the wheel spin. As the ball landed on red, Depo let out a victorious shout. He doubled down, increasing his bets in an adrenaline-fueled frenzy. But greed got the better of him. By the end of the night, he had lost everything. As he stumbled out of the casino, the weight of his failure crushed him. Little did he know, a reporter had been tailing him, capturing everything on camera. Back at the mansion, Gloria confronted him. You've been gambling, haven't you? She hissed. Depo denied it, but Gloria threw a newspaper onto the table with his photo plastered on the front page. Billionaire's son squanders millions in casino, the headline screamed, with Gloria smirking. This is perfect. Your stupidity just made it easier for me to take over. While the chaos unfolded, Tinny met with her old friend, Chuka, who proposed launching a clean energy startup. This will rebuild the Ayodele name and prove you're more than just heirs to a fortune, Chuka said. Tinny hesitated. If I fail, I'll be no better than Depo. Chuka smiled. The difference is, you'll be investing in something meaningful. She agreed, quietly using her share of the family's liquid assets to fund the venture. But keeping her actions a secret wasn't easy. Gloria, suspicious of Tinny's late-night meetings, began planting spies to uncover her plans. Meanwhile, Luca watched Tinny's determination with cautious optimism. Maybe she's the one, he murmured, though doubts lingered. With Gloria's spy photographing Tinny signing a deal with Chuka, setting the stage for another confrontation. Khalid's investigation into the offshore accounts led him to a shocking discovery. Luca had secretly funneled money into a trust fund for underprivileged children. However, these funds were now being accessed by Gloria and Alhaji Bello. This isn't just theft, it's betrayal, Khalid told his mother, Adebimp. They debated whether to confront Gloria directly or expose her publicly. Adebimp, ever cautious, suggested gathering more evidence. Meanwhile, Gloria grew increasingly paranoid, sensing that someone was closing in on her schemes. She doubled her efforts to shift blame onto Depo, planting fake documents that implicated him in the missing funds. With Coreed hacking into Gloria's personal email and finding an encrypted file labeled Plan B, total takeover. Luca, hidden in his hotel room, felt conflicted as he watched his family spiral into chaos. He had always known their flaws, but witnessing them firsthand was painful. Was I too harsh? He wondered aloud. His loyal assistant, Amaka, disagreed. Sir, this is exactly what you needed to see. If they can't survive this test, they don't deserve your legacy. Luca nodded, though doubt lingered. He decided to leave the hotel and observe his family more closely, risking exposure to uncover the truth. Dressed in his gardener disguise, Luca infiltrated a meeting between Gloria and Alhaji Bello. What he overheard shocked him. If this family fails, I get a bigger cut of the Ayodele empire, Bello said. And they will fail, Gloria replied confidently, with Luca clenching his fists, realizing the depth of Gloria's betrayal. The media storm surrounding Depo's casino debacle escalated as Gloria secretly leaked more damning information about him. Employees at Ayodele Group began quitting en masse, citing a lack of faith in the family's leadership. Tinny tried to contain the fallout by announcing her clean energy startup, but the press was more interested in the family drama. Another Ayodele gamble? Read one headline, casting doubt on her efforts. Meanwhile, Coreed confronted Gloria with the encrypted file he had uncovered. What are you hiding? He demanded. Gloria laughed. You think you're smart, little brother? You have no idea what you're up against. With Gloria calling Alhaji Bello, saying, we need to accelerate the plan before Coreed ruins everything. As the Ayodele empire teetered on the brink of collapse, the anonymous trustee finally intervened. A letter was delivered to the family, outlining strict guidelines for managing the remaining assets. If these rules are not followed, the fortune will be forfeited to charity, the letter warned. Gloria dismissed the letter as a bluff, but Tinny and Coreed took it seriously. They worked together to stabilize the remaining businesses, though their progress was slow. Luca, observing from the sidelines, felt a flicker of hope. Maybe there's still a chance, he thought. With the trustee secretly meeting Amaka, revealing a shocking twist. The trustee was following Luca's direct orders. Alhaji Bello grew impatient with Gloria, demanding a larger share of the spoils. If you can't deliver, I'll take matters into my own hands, he threatened. Desperate, Gloria decided to sabotage Tinny's startup, hiring hackers to disrupt its launch. Tinny, unaware of the threat, prepared for a grand unveiling event. Coreed, however, sensed something was wrong. While reviewing security footage, he noticed unfamiliar faces lurking near Tinny's office. She's being targeted, he realized. With Coreed racing to warn Tinny, but Gloria intercepting him with a cryptic message. Stay out of this, or you'll regret it. Tinny stood before a room full of investors, her heart racing. The launch of her clean energy startup was supposed to be her redemption, her chance to prove to her family and the world that she was capable of more than just being an heir to a broken empire. The stage was set, but something felt off. As the lights dimmed, Coreed burst into the room, breathless, his face pale. Tinny, you're being sabotaged, he warned, pulling her aside. What are you talking about? She asked, shocked. Someone's hacked into the system. The investors' files, all the projections, even the presentation itself. They've been replaced with bogus data, Coreed explained, pulling up his phone to show her. Tinny's stomach churned. It's Gloria. She's trying to destroy everything I've built. Despite the setback, Tinny knew she couldn't back down. She quickly made the decision to go ahead with the presentation, showing the investors raw data and proving the potential of her clean energy project. With Tinny confronting Gloria in a private moment. You won't win this time, Gloria. I'll make sure of it. Gloria's eyes narrowed with a dangerous glint. You've underestimated me. Tinny and Coreed's attempts to push forward with the clean energy startup were met with increasing resistance, but they didn't back down. They began to quietly recruit new allies, business leaders who were disillusioned with the chaos at Ayodele Group and who saw Tinny's vision as the future. Meanwhile, Luca, disguised as the old gardener, watched the developments from the shadows. He had grown increasingly disillusioned with his family, especially after watching Gloria's manipulation and Depo's reckless choices. Yet, something in Tinny's persistence made him reconsider. In a rare moment of clarity, Luca decided to meet with the trustee who had been secretly working behind the scenes to save the empire. The trustee was a figure of mystery, a man Luca trusted with the future of his wealth. When the trustee finally met Luca in a secluded spot outside the mansion, he couldn't hide his shock. "I thought you were gone," the trustee said, looking over his shoulder nervously. "I've been watching," Luca replied, his voice firm. "I need to know if there's hope left for this family." With the trustee pulling out a hidden document, "There may be one last chance, but it will require a sacrifice." Gloria was relentless. With her eyes set firmly on taking control of the Ayodele Empire, she intensified her schemes. The clean energy startup was her biggest threat, and she wouldn't allow Tinny to succeed. Late one night, Gloria met with Alhaji Bello in a darkened corner of the mansion, the two discussing a final, risky move. "We need to eliminate Tinny as a competitor," Bello said with cold calculation. Gloria, her eyes narrowed, nodded. "I've been thinking about it. If we can frame her for financial mismanagement, she'll be discredited." Alhaji Bello smiled, sensing victory. "It's time to end this." With Gloria quietly entering Tinny's office, a sly grin on her face. She opened Tinny's laptop, inserting a flash drive with falsified documents that would later be used to ruin her reputation. The family's infighting reached a boiling point. While Tinny focused on building her clean energy startup, Gloria and Depo conspired to secure their hold on the empire. But it wasn't just the financial chaos that rocked the Ayodele family. It was the explosive revelation that someone had been betraying Luca all along. Luca had been watching his family from a distance, his disappointment growing. He knew something had to change, but he still wasn't sure whether he was ready to confront them directly. He had seen the worst of their behavior, but there was still a flicker of hope, especially in Tinny and Coreed. Meanwhile, Gloria prepared for the final move, securing a meeting with an international financier who could buy out the Ayodele Empire, leaving the family with nothing. "It's all in motion," she whispered to Alhaji Bello, a victorious grin spreading across her face. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, a phone call shattered her confidence. It was a confidential report from Luca's most trusted advisor, Amaka, who had uncovered a game-changing secret. "Gloria," Amaka said, "your plan won't work. There's more to Luca's legacy than you know. A trust was set up, one that bypasses all of you, and it's too late to stop it." With Gloria's face draining of color as she hears the devastating news. Luca's legacy, it seemed, might be safe after all, but at what cost to the family? The battle for the Ayodele fortune escalates, with betrayals and shifting alliances shaping the family's fate. Luca's legacy is threatened from all sides, but his hidden plans could change everything. Who will win control of the $32 billion empire? And will Luca finally reveal himself, or remain a shadow in the background, watching his family tear itself apart?